Hey Johannes,
Hey,
how are you today?
good.
So, where are you from? Let's start with a very simple and profound question.
Originally, I'm from the area around Würzburg. It's an area called Franconia. And at some point, I moved to Berlin like 13 years ago, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
what brought you to Berlin?
It was like a mix back then. I finished my studies. I got a job in Berlin, and at the same time, my first record was released on a Berlin based label. So it was like an easy choice at the time.
When was that?
2010.
2010,
Yeah.
so 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to get to know more about you. This is why you are here. So I'm very happy to have Johannes here tonight in my studio because he's producing really nice and amazing music, and we will talk about this as well. But not only about music, also about other stuff. And one question I always have when I meet colleagues of mine, like you tonight, is how did everything start? So when you were a child or a young person, what was your first encounter with electronic music? You remember that?
Well, I mean, music was always there. Like my dad, he was playing the guitar, and my mom, she was always like singing in a church choir or something. So it was always like a part of my life, I would say. And I remember when I went to like a school party for the first time, like a Schuldisco, as we were calling it. I think I heard some um Prodigy tune. I think No Good Prodigy. I don't know, 94 or something. I think I was like 10 years old or something. And I remember like it was hitting me hard. Like I've never heard something like this before. And I mean, it was super loud, and plus the lights. It was the first time I went to a disco, I would say. So this is probably the first moment I remember when it comes to electronic music.
Do you remember which kind of music you listened to before?
Well, probably like
Fairy tales CDs?
yeah, probably like
Not with 10, okay.
probably like DJ Bobo or something. I feel a bit ashamed now, but yeah, 94, being 10 years old, there's a party.
Yes, so Eurodance, yeah, but
Yeah.
Eurodance is also electronic music, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So it was the path to
Yeah,
more edgy music.
yeah, yeah.
Do you remember the feelings when you listened to Prodigy during the school party? Do you remember something like what you were feeling like?
Probably in my like stomach was hitting me in a, I don't know, like nice, warm way. Because I remember it wasn't very busy. The room wasn't really busy, but the room was so full of sound, and I've never felt something like this before. So it was really like, what is this? Like it really hit me in a nice way. Like,
so it was something new for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I remember something like the same. I know it's a very basic question, but I'm always very curious to learn the first encounter of other people when it comes to electronic music. And my first encounter was Kraftwerk's Robots when I was 8. But when I was 11, I had this stereo hi-fi thing with big speakers in my room. And I listened to Kraftwerk's numbers.
Zahlen.
Zahlen numbers. And which was actually the Blaupause of breakdance, by the way, because numbers came out in 1981, and the breakdance hype started at 84, and I drove my mom mad. I still have her shouting in my ear, "Marc, please make it quieter." And I was like, sitting in front of the speakers,
Like heaven.
yeah. And that was my prodigy. So
Nice. And you heard it on the radio, or where did you first?
yeah, there was
Yeah.
I think it's still around. At this time, you could listen to Radio Luxembourg, and it was even on AM.
AM.
And my grandma listened to Radio Luxembourg, and they played even Autobahn by Kraftwerk in 1975 when I was 5. And I was like, I didn't understand it, but I was a bit like, wow. And now, retrospectively, I understand that any kind of music in the 80s, which was produced with a drum computer, really fascinated me. So that was actually the thing which really flashed me a lot. But at this time, I didn't realize this.
And did you have a name for it? What kind of music was it to you back then?
Power music.
Power
I don't
music.
know. Yeah, they called it Italo disco later, and breakdance and electric body music and so on. And but yeah, as I said, everything in this direction really attracted me a lot. Yeah, 80s music. That's actually the first thing I would love to discuss with you, because when I listen to your music, I can hear that you are highly influenced by 80s music.
Yeah.
And your fans are really surprised, though. I know, you know that, of course. But I have another stupid questions for you. First of all, it's about names. So I would like to talk with you about names. Frank music.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for sure not the first one asking you this. Why the hell have you called your label Frank Music? Please let me know and unveil this.
You know, the area where I grew up, it's actually called Franconia. This is like,
of course.
just like,
okay.
No worries.
Okay.
No, and you know, there is this expression, let's be frankly speaking. So I always try to make a connection to make, I don't know, like, I don't know if there's exactly like.
Wow. Okay.
It's a bit too much, I know, but yeah.
I thought that maybe a good friend of you is called Frank, or.
I have a good friend called Frank.
Yeah, really? Is he proud of the label name?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
He called his label Yo Good Music. So.
Yeah, it really makes sense. Frank Music.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I'm not the first one asking this, right?
No, but it's not it's a good one. It's a good question.
All right. Thanks for this. Yeah, to stay with names. Do you know this moment when you finish a track and you ask yourself how to call it?
Yeah.
And tell us something about this process.
I mean, I have this endless list of track names on my phone. Like, been doing it for 8 years or something.
Okay.
And this is like my first. This is where I would look first for a name. But then, yeah, it's like, I'm not a big fan of. I don't know if there is a sample in it with the, I don't know, like dance. I'm not a big fan of calling my track dance.
Okay.
So it would be too obvious.
Comprehensive, yes.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe the title is as important as the music, I would say. For me, it's really important to find a good name for a track. So it's a process, I would say. So yeah, but usually I would start with the list and go from there.
Okay, that means sometimes you're sitting on the plane and then you see a sign there like exit, and then you, okay, exit.
Yeah.
Or how can I imagine this?
Yeah, or just in my mind or whatever. Yeah, or when I read something or like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Maybe I should do the same. Okay,
What's
and now...
yours? Now I want to hear yours.
Excuse me?
What's your strategy when it comes to...
Wow, I don't know. I mean, we can even extend this topic, because you produce a track, you think about the name, but also the artwork is quite crucial.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? When for example, when I'm in Tokyo and I go to this HMV record store to meet the best record store I know, they have a huge electronic department, and when I'm there, I buy records by artwork. Do you have the same sometimes?
Yes. Even nowadays, it gets more, I don't know, more important than ever, I would say.
But it's not really rational, because the artwork says nothing about the music and says something about the music in a way.
There's this saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Yeah.
So it's the artwork and the track name, right? Which sometimes have more influence than the track itself.
Yeah.
You would
totally agree, yeah.
And why are we like this?
Because we're human after all. I don't know.
Okay, and we are also visionary. Vision people, or
I mean, do you remember the times when you would go to the record store and you would see the latest hot releases on the wall? And you know, there was always like a white label with a nice stamp on it. You want to hear it, right? If it's a nice...
I only bought white label.
You see?
Nothing else. When there was a full cover, not interesting. No, but it's very interesting, and I still don't know why this is so, in a way.
Yeah. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah, and now another thing. I mean, another stupid question tonight. Okay, Wimbledon.
Wimbledon.
Why this title?
That's a good one. The bass line I was using for this track, it was like influenced by a DJ Tennis track, actually. I hope he's not mad at me. You probably use the same. It's not the same.
I think
bass
he's a
line.
fan of you, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure. I'm sure he likes your music.
We probably used the same preset, I guess. And then I was like, tennis. What do I connect with tennis? And it's like, somehow I came up with Wimbledon. And you know, the funny story, Pete Tong played it on the radio once. And I think it's just an area, right? Or like, and he was talking
It's
about
a part of London.
Part of London. And he was like, it's funny, this track, it's like a place I used to live or something. So he had a totally different connection than I had. So
exactly.
it was really funny. I don't know.
Yeah, this is also what can happen when you give a track a name. Then everybody has a different association, right?
Yeah.
About it. Yeah, another unveiled thing. So now I know why it's called like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So to come back to the 80s.
Yeah.
What makes them so special to use elements in your tracks?
Yeah.
What is the magical aspect of these times? Despite the fact that you're born in this,
I was about to say
this age.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why, but there's like, you were talking about the 80s drum machines and stuff. I mean, I think there is so much power in it, especially, you know, like the claps or the snares. There is so much. I don't know. I want to call it like body or something. There is so much in it when you use them. It's like, even nowadays with all the progression in when it comes to, I don't know, sound and stuff, I think these 80s drums, they have so much power, especially when it comes to club music. I don't know, it's like, or maybe I'm just being lazy because I know it works, but for me it's like it's all about the power and connected, you know, when you put on like the, I don't know, 808 whatsoever, or any machine from these days, it's like it just works, you know.
So what are your favorite drum machines? So I see two there.
Yeah. Do you have a Lin drum also? Somewhere.
Yeah, besides the DMX. So you have a favorite one? I think maybe the Lin drum, right?
The Lin drum. I once made a track called Lin Dreams. And I don't even have the original. I think it's like, couldn't afford it nowadays. But
no, but it's not necessary. I think in the days of sampling, it's also possible to use the sounds on the DAW.
Yeah.
Any tracks which influenced you a lot from the 80s?
I mean, Blue Monday is too obvious, I guess.
Yeah, of course. It
DMX,
just became 40 years old.
All right.
A while ago, yeah.
Yeah.
40 years jubilee.
Really nice.
That's another trick which I used to tease my mom. Besides Kraftwerk's numbers.
Blue Monday.
Yeah. I mean, duck, crazy. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, these tracks, I don't know, on me, they never get old. I don't know. It's like, there seems to be something about the 80s. I don't know. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, what I really like about your music is that you transform the 80s into our times and present them a bit more modern. So it's very punchy all the time. And
I'm trying.
Yeah, that's something I really appreciate. Okay, let's make a jump from the 80s to the 90s.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, you visited the school party and listened to Prodigy.
Yep.
And the music made a lot of development. Before we started here this interview, we listened to Urban Soul's All Right and Terence Parker's Love's Got Me High. So what was this time for you? You became older and more mature, and you discovered more music. So what happened then?
I got lucky since there was like a record show opening in my hometown. It was called Swing King. And it's a small place, like 20,000 people living there. So it was really special. And somehow I went to this record shop. And the guys were really friendly, and they gave me like Blaze Records or DJ Sneak or Peppermint Jam records. Like 97, a couple of years later. And I was like 14 years old. I didn't have a turntable at home or anything, but I was like fascinated. And these guys, of course, they were older, and they were helping me out and showed me how to mix records, and they gave me all the good stuff. And this is where it started for me with the house music. I got good teachers, I think. So yeah, and then I got like my first turntables and practice every day after school, and it seems house music never let me go. So yeah, it was all connected to this record shop, and it was before I went to clubs or anything. It was just records and music.
Okay, but this record shop was in your hometown Würzburg?
Close to Würzburg, even a smaller place. Lower Main. It's.
Oh wow, and they had a record store.
They had a record store. It was open for 1 year. And they even asked me, it was one of my first gigs when I had like 1 year anniversary, and they had to close shortly after.
Okay, and that was it in this place?
That was it. Then I had to go to Würzburg. There were other shops, but still, for me it was like the start. Like yeah.
Okay, so, but how did you end up in this store? So how can I imagine this?
Yeah.
What had to happen? Was it by accident or?
I mean, I think at the time I had this idea of being like radio DJ or something. So I had a tape recorder and CD players at home. I mean, I couldn't adjust the tempo or anything. I was playing around with the old stereo my dad gave me, and I had some CDs and some tapes, I think, or even a microphone. So I had like natural interest in these things. But I wouldn't say I had a proper taste in music. It was, like maybe I had like a Thunderdome or Mayday compilation at the time. So yeah, I know. So, but I was interested in, I don't know, DJ stuff. And then this record shop came along, and somehow I wanted to go in there. And I remember I was quite frightened when I entered it for the first time because, I was only 14 years old, and these guys, they were like, 20. So when you compare it, like super old, and I wasn't even sure if they would kick me out. But they were really warm, being friendly, and I think they understood that I had this interest in music. But I'm really grateful nowadays because they would, we became friends. We are still friends to this day. And yeah, and I think I really profited from their good taste in music, you know. It was just a small, almost like a village, really small place, but they were selling this amazing house record, so.
Do you remember why you were, I mean, okay, you were 14, but
Yeah.
do you remember the feeling why you were a bit scared when you entered the store? What was it? What was triggering your fear?
I mean, I was probably more of a shy person, or still am. And I mean, these guys, it was the typical, I don't know, boy. I don't know, my expression at the time was, okay, there are 3 older guys in there and the cool guys, you know. I mean, compare 20 to 14, it's like I don't know, it's a huge gap. So, oh, I remember another story. Once we made a trip, like the whole school made a trip to Koblenz, I think, city of Koblenz. And I think I went to a record shop in Koblenz.
And the others went to a church, and you went to
Yeah,
the record store.
probably. No, and
Sounds familiar.
and the guys were really, I don't know, they weren't, I don't know, not being very nice. And they gave us even like an age. Yeah, you have to be, I don't know, 16 to go in there.
Oh,
I think
wow.
they made some bad experience with young kids scratching records. I get it nowadays, but back then it was like, okay. But somehow we could convince them that we would buy records, and we bought some, so it was okay in the end. But maybe this is where, yeah, this is what I was afraid of. I don't know, like to get refused or like.
Yeah. I mean, there is.
Yeah.
I'm asking because it's a very interesting topic. There is this this phenomenon
Yeah,
that when you enter a record store
yeah,
and you probably don't know the people, that you have a high amount of respect,
yeah,
and that you are. I mean, not are, maybe were, and I was also a bit afraid that I couldn't show enough of knowledge.
yeah,
Because I know record stores from back in the days. You entered them, and the guys, the owners, were also quite unfriendly.
yeah,
And when you ask in a not precise way,
yeah,
or you ask, yeah, do you know the record where it says, all right, you don't know that this is Urban Soul, man, I can't believe this. So something like that.
yeah,
But I know these stores pretty well myself, but I have no idea where this manner comes from, actually.
yeah,
I mean, when you are running a record store, and not every record store is like this,
yeah.
but I know a few of them. There are also a few in Berlin, where
Quite
the
a few in
owners,
Berlin.
where the owners are,
Yeah.
when you don't show a certain amount of knowledge, they kick you even out. But I have no idea where this comes from. I know this respect when you enter the store. I remember when I entered Hardwax in Berlin for the first time.
Don't get me started.
I was so full of respect that that I pronounce all. I mean, it's a long time ago, but that I pronounce all the names correctly. And
It's kind of a cold place, I think, to this very day.
Yeah.
So,
it's a place with a good selection, but you had a lot of respect, and I have no idea where this comes from. Do you know that?
I think back
I mean the behavior of the guys, you know.
I think when you look back before we had the internet shops, I think they had something special that everybody wanted to have, especially when they only had like 3 vinyl copies of a record that everybody wanted to have. So they could probably choose. And I don't know, maybe it's like a very high position or very, I don't know, like
the position of power. So I decide who will get the
I think so.
rare pressings.
Yeah, I don't know. I can imagine. Like, I mean, it should be totally different nowadays, right? I mean, like you can get it anywhere. But yeah,
Are you missing record stores?
I am actually, especially.
Do you still play records?
Oh, rarely. maybe twice a year, and then I try to play all night or the whole set. But I rarely play records nowadays. But I miss the stores in a way. For me, I think it's easier going to a shop once a week and check everything that's there. But that's it. That's your I don't know. That's everything there is. And now it's like this vast of, I don't know. Sometimes I hate myself when I miss certain tracks. Then I find out about them 3 months later, and I was like, how could I miss this? So sometimes I would get angry at myself.
Don't be too hard to
know.
yourself. But how do you find your music, by the way? That's also very interesting. I mean, back in the days, we had the owners of the record store who made a pre-selection. And still, I'm very thankful to all the Wilfrieds and Herberts in Düsseldorf who made the pre-selection at stores like Sounds Good and Flipside. So how are you nowadays choosing your music?
I think it's a total mix of everything. I mean, I think Bandcamp's most important for me. So I would follow certain labels and artists, and then you get a notification, and then you would check the latest records. And then I go through all the shops, from Hardwax to, I don't know, or I even use the vinyl shops, because I think there's not too much coming out on vinyl these days. So then I would check Phonica or Dex or DJ.de and stuff like this.
So as a listening platform, or?
Yeah. But what I don't do is listening to DJ mixes at all, because I have this feeling I need to find out about tracks in a different way. And I wouldn't say stealing, but I don't want to copy anyone, So I'm trying to stick to the shops or personal recommendations instead of just listening to some DJ mixes and sometimes promos, but that's too much also. I mean, how much promos do you get a week? But then we should go back to the covers. I started listening only to promos with nice covers. So maybe like 5%.
So the cover counts, obviously.
Yeah.
And to come back to Bandcamp, okay, you receive notifications, but how can you find something in this deep pond called Bandcamp? Is it randomized, or how do you do this?
I mean, it's like going from A to B to C. There is sometimes I miss like a classic shop selection. So what's new this week in this genre? I mean, you don't really have this, right? So I would just there is a new record, and then there's some recommendations. So I think it's just based on collections of the buyers. And then sometimes I would just go to some nice collection and go from there. I mean, where do you start? It's like, it never stops, right? So,
no, it never stops.
But somehow I always find something interesting in the end. So Bandcamp would be my, I don't know, first choice when I look for new music nowadays.
And it requires a lot of patience, right? So to how many tracks can you listen when you are searching for music? Because I surrender after, I don't know, 30, 40 tracks, I surrender.
Yeah, maybe a bit more, 50, 60.
55.
55,
That's it.
It depends.
It was also in the record store. I had this pile.
Yeah.
And after a while, when the pile was like this, I surrendered already.
Yeah.
So I started to pick up labels or artworks which were addressing me.
Yeah.
And I know that I had many moments where I went to the owner and said and asked him, can you please help me? I still have here this 15 records. Can you pick up the 5 ones I have to listen to?
Yeah.
So for me it was really overwhelming to listen to many tracks.
And how do you, when you listen to new music, how many, I don't know, seconds, or like, what's your approach?
Good question.
Yeah.
No, the interviews is the other way around, you see. So Johannes is taking over. This is a really, really good question. I think I'm doing it in the root way.
Yeah.
So okay, let's imagine it's
Yeah.
digital, but I'm a needle hopper.
Yeah, true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sometimes 3 seconds are enough, right? Or
Yeah,
two.
actually,
cool.
it's so
Yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
because, I mean, our colleague is sitting in front of the computer and thinking about a nice arrangement, and we are like hopping, ding, ding, ding. I take it. I don't know. Why is this so? I have no idea.
Too many tracks every week. I don't know.
So how do they do this on YouTube? Why are we listening to music like this? Write it in the comments.
I would.
Okay, so and the music is also influence your way of production. You sometimes think, oh wow, this snare, I want to use a similar one because it's so fat, or
Yeah, I think so, in a way. Yeah. But for me, the most important influence is the club. I don't know, when I'm playing, it doesn't need to be a certain track or something, just the vibe, I would say. So for me, it's really, I think I couldn't do this music without playing it during the weekend.
You need to practice
Yeah.
the music.
Yeah, or to get inspired, just, yeah.
And the decision to produce, was it, why was this? A lot of people say, so that I can play what I would love, or?
For me, it came much later, so I was always DJing or buying records. And I think I never even dreamt about making my own music, because the stuff I used to like at the time, it was so musical, I would say, like classic American vocal house stuff, like the Masters at Work and whatsoever. And I couldn't even think of making this music at home with just a computer. So, but at some point later on, I would say I was a bit lost. It was like, I think, when all this, what did you call it, electro house whatsoever came up, like mid 2000s. I don't know when it went more.
You have some examples?
I mean, I remember the Justice.
Gentleman, maybe, or?
Yeah, maybe this time, or like Justice whatsoever, this Ed Banger. But this was the good stuff. I don't know. I was a bit, I lost a bit of interest, and then I remember when, we were speaking about Chimster earlier, like 2008, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, this time. He made more deeper stuff, and I was really into this kind of house at the time.
Me too.
And this is what, like, oh, this is actually something I can imagine to do. And then I did Erasmus studies in Sweden, and I didn't take much courses at university, but I brought some equipment, just some speakers and a keyboard, and I had a lot of time. And this got me started into Ableton and stuff, and at some point it was really fun, and this is when my first tracks arrived.
Yeah, cool. So you are continuing now your time travel. So that means the zeros weren't that inspiring to you so much when electro house came up.
Yes and no. I think what saved house music for me is that I started to produce. So because I lost a bit of interest in buying records, because there wasn't too much that I was interested in at the time. But I don't know, somehow I was like, okay, maybe I should change perspective or directions. I don't know. And it kind of helped to save the interest in music for me. And then it grew from there, and I got inspired again and bought more and more stuff, I think.
And then the 10th came.
And
then you had your first release.
Yeah.
How was that for you, the first release?
Oh, it was like,
Which label, by the way?
It was called White from Berlin. Was run by Oskar Offermann. And the funny thing, it was called White Label, but they always had faces on the cover, so it was quite a trick. Yeah, my first record was like maybe I remember the Smallville days. I think they were huge at the time. So this, how do you call it? German deep house revival at the time. I don't know.
Let's call it like this.
No, for me it felt amazing because I was into house music already for a long time, but only on the passive side, I would say, or just on the DJ side. And then it was really special for me because it wasn't like, okay, this was all new to me and I was a producer from the very start. No, for me it was like at the time in my life when I heard so much house music already. So I remember I was a bit nervous when it came out. I mean, is this good enough? Because I had a couple thousand house records at home already and I wasn't so sure if this really adds to it. But it was, yeah, it helped me to go on, I would say. So I think I did okay. I hope I did okay.
I think so, yes. I heard nothing bad about you. Yeah, and DJing. So I'm thinking a lot about DJing these days.
Yeah.
About the aspects and the aim and what it's all about. One question which is always in my mind is straddling the divide between serving music to the people and doing your own thing.
Yeah.
How do you see this? What is your position here?
Well, it's like, I think it's always like give and take. So I'm always trying to squeeze in stuff that maybe that's not so obvious nowadays. So for me, it's like we heard some urban soul earlier. So for me, it's like I love to play a certain Frankie Knuckles track from, I don't know, 91 or something. And somehow I can always squeeze it in when I want to, even when the crowd is more, techno. But then I get the feeling, okay, this is like 5 minutes, but then I need to play something more, I don't know, banging or current or whatsoever. So it's like I try to make my way through. So, but I would never play music that I really don't like. I would never do it. So for me, this would be a point when I have the feeling like, okay, this is it, I would stop. So I don't know. It's like there are some tracks I would not avoid them, but it's not like I can play my 100% favorite music all night, but at least 80%, I would say.
And how would you consider DJ sets? So let's imagine you have a set of 4 hours.
Yeah.
I know that you prefer 4 hours.
Yeah.
What is it for you? Is it storytelling or enjoy the present moment or education maybe even, or just an exercise hour, or what is it for you?
I mean, for me, the other day, like a guy came up to me when I finished playing. I was like, I've never danced so long in ages, or I was dancing for 3-4 hours straight. Thank you. And this is for me like the greatest. You can tell a DJ, right? I mean, what's it all about? It's all about dancing. I'm not a big fan of educating. I think like DJ Kotzer once said like something about the Trojan horse. So you can always, maybe that's my way of squeezing in some Frankie Knuckles, I don't know. But I would never call it education. I'm not a big fan. For me, it's like, I don't know, take them on a trip. But for me, it's like make them dance. And when you can squeeze in some special or something they wouldn't expect, it's super nice. But for me, it's not a must. But I think it's a constant up and down, I would say, like a trip. And I always have the feeling that at some point that I'm losing it. I always have this. I don't know if anyone would feel it in the room. But
what does it mean, losing it?
Like maybe it's just in my mind. It's something like, okay, one more track and they would all leave the dance floor. Something like this.
Okay.
But maybe it's just a signal for me, okay, get your shit together. No, maybe you know the feeling, like the club's full, it's all working out, but you don't know what to play next or something, and then you get a bit nervous.
Yeah, I know this pretty well. But the people are not reacting like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to come back to educating, I mean, you are a pre-selector. I mean, it's a funny order, because the pre-selector in the shop, then the pre-selector the DJ.
Yeah.
So I think we are mentors in a way, and a mentor is also an educator maybe.
Yeah.
So are you aware of this, or you don't see this at all?
I agree. Maybe I'm just not a fan of the wording educator, because it sounds so...
Mentor?
Mentor is better, yeah.
Or suggester?
Yeah. Maybe I'm not a fan of, like, it sounds too... Maybe there's too much ego involved when you say, like, I want to educate them all. I want to make them having a great night. That's what I want to do. If I can show them some nice music they haven't heard before, I'm super happy. But I wouldn't say I want to educate anyone. Come on. For me, it's just...
Yeah, it has something teacher-like.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, I have one last question, which is really driving me. It's also a bit of cross-promotion, because I think we can unveil that this wonderful guy made a remix for a track I made with Boris Lugosz, called Survivor, and with Car, not to forget. And what I found out when I listened to your amazing remix is that you're obviously somebody who injects a certain happiness into the track. I don't know if at any time, but when I think about Wimbledon, when I think about your remix for us, and a few other tracks I'm having in mind, I realized that that you transmit a certain cool, let's call it cool happiness.
Yeah.
I'm saying cool happiness because electronic dance music is pretty often combined with coolness, with something serious and more dark and happy. I mean, there was even a genre called happy house back in the days, but a few people maybe rather think about tracks like Freed from Desire, or I don't know. But I think you are doing this in a really cool and addressing way. And as a last question, I would love to know where this comes from. And yeah, I find it to check out his music. If you not so familiar with his sound, check it out. It's really worth it. It has something very, very distinctive. And now what is it? What is the thing behind it? Because one last word, the track Survivor is rather serious, and he made it really swinging and a bit more happy. He pushed away the darkness a bit. So please, your last words about this.
First of all, thank you, Marc.
Good cross promotion, right?
Well, where do I start?
Yeah, please.
I mean,
I want to know this now.
It probably comes from the DJing. I love to see smiling faces when I'm DJing, and maybe I just want to make the right soundtrack for it. So, no, but I was never like a big fan of taking it too serious. I'm not. Honestly, I don't like all this. Sometimes I would hear these trash things nowadays in the club. When they would play this super fast electro whatsoever with some 90s vocals. I'm not really a fan of, I don't know, this trash thing, but I don't know, house music was always something super positive for me. So even, when I got into the music and in the record shop back then, I never touched the techno records at the time. I don't know why. I mean, I must have missed so many amazing techno records from the end of the 90s. But that somehow it never touched me. I don't know. So I always had a thing for, one of my first records was Blaze Lovely Day. I mean, it's like...
This explains a lot. This explains a lot. Okay, now we have it.
And sometimes I would tell myself, make some darker stuff. But somehow I can't. I tried, but I don't know. There's a certain...
Nobody is sad about this. Yeah, thank you very much
Mark.
for being my guest.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking forward to your remix. Thank you. Bye bye.
Ciao.